a 30-year-old female teacher in Houston at a humble high school in Texas, to be specific, had sexual relations with a 17-year-old female student. Now, the age of consent in Texas is 18, so the girl is underage. And as a result, this teacher, Amanda Feenstra, is going to face criminal charges for her relationship with this 17-year-old. Also, keep in mind that after they had about a year-long relationship, the girl decided, you know what, I want to end this, I want to move on, and the teacher was not buying it. So she started stalking the 17-year-old, which is why she went to her parents, to authorities, and criminal charges were filed against the teacher. Now, a few more details about this story. It turns out that Amanda Feenstra, the teacher, was married at the time and had the student living with her. And whenever her husband was out of town, they would have sex. They would have sex on campus. They had sex all over the place.
So look, this story's driving me crazy because if it was just a 19-year-old, it'd be super hot and everybody would get to have fun, right? Like if you got a 19-year-old sophomore in college on your couch and every time your husband goes away, you guys have wild lesbian sex, everybody wins in that story, right? Instead, she needlessly goes after a 17-year-old, it's illegal, and she's the teacher in a power position, that's not cool, and then they have sex on campus. Again, if it's a college campus, it could be fun. High school campus, needlessly creepy. Now, the flip side is, look, I think the legal age of consent should be 16. So I'm not like, I don't think she's a pedophile. That's crazy talk if you ask me, right? So, like, I'm not like, oh my, there's not the story that I'm most outraged about in life. On the other hand, they got to enforce the law. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's exactly where I stand at, to be honest with you. I'm not outraged by this. You know, I feel like 17 is so close to, obviously it's close to the legal age of consent. She's almost 18. It was obviously consensual. I know it's considered like statutory rape because of the fact that she's underage, but other than that, it was consensual. And they had a year-long relationship with one another, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you got to enforce the law. She's 30 years old. There's obviously an imbalance of power there. You did a lot of shady things when it comes to your husband and having this student live with you while your husband is there. I don't know, that was creepy. So I guess we'll see what happens. And also, whenever these kinds of cases come up with a, you know, even mildly attractive teacher having sexual relations with a student, I always think about what my ruling would be if the roles were reversed. And if it was a 30-year-old male teacher having relations with a 17-year-old female student, we would be singing a different tune. So you got to prosecute in the same way that you would prosecute a man.
I hear you on that. Now, that's why, I mean, it's such a weird thing because if it's a 19-year-old, you're not going to prosecute a guy either, and then you throw in mildly attractive lesbians and everybody's having a great time. If it's 15-year-old, I think clearly most people, for a great majority of people, clearly creepy and unacceptable no matter guy, girl, etc. At 17, you know, it depends on what you think the age of consent should be, you know, and so that's why it's slightly middle ground. But remember, this is actually a pretty good case of why she should be arrested. She abused her power you know, position, and then by stalking her. Like, it's one thing, they have a consensual relationship, they break it off, you know, some people could claim no harm done, others would claim no, it's illegal, etc. But there was harm done, and she turned into a weirdo and
a stalker,
a stalker, etc. And if there's stalkers who are both legal age, and hey, that's life, right? And then you know, might pursue her for stalking. That's a different thing. But when you have the power imbalance, and one's the teacher, and the other one's the student, it makes it especially problematic.